Hello, everyone, and welcome to Play Some Video Games.
Oh, you sound like Nathan.
I'm sorry.
That's what I was doing. I was channeling my inner Nathan. I'm totally leaving this in, by the way. Hello, everybody, and welcome to Play Some Video Games, the only podcast you get to listen to our dulcet tones. Welcome to the late night edition. Episode 9. That's right, folks. We've been doing this 9 weeks in a row. We're almost there to 10. We sound like a real podcast. It's quite amazing. Thank you, as always, for listening to us and, of course, for telling your friends. This week we have myself, Kevin, Donnie, Kyle, and Coach Mo. So it's been a long time, Kyle, for you especially. So why don't you tell us, what have you been up to, buddy?
Well, you know, life, as is known to be, has been pretty busy. I have a couple jobs, but actually today was my last day at my second job, so which was pretty exciting. They wanted me to continue to work on Friday nights, and I was like, no, I have a podcast to do. And now we're doing this on Saturday night. So I quit a job for nothing, which is pretty cool. No, life is really busy. You know, I get married in a month, which is pretty exciting, but we're looking at selling our house, and we're building a house, and life has just gotten pretty complicated and busy, so I had to get rid of job number 2, but still finding some time to play some video games, so which is always great. But we're just really excited to be back on the podcast and hang out with all you gents.
And what have you been playing lately?
Well, I did have the opportunity to jump into the Doom beta, which apparently there's an open beta this weekend for everyone. I played it last week. A lot of people seemed to like it. I didn't. I wasn't a huge fan. It could be very possible. It was a beta. There was a lot of bugs. And I, as we've all discovered while trying to record this podcast, don't have the best internet all the time. And there were many, many times where the game would just come up and say, you know, connecting to server, and my character would be respawning and dying, and there was nothing I could do. There were times where, you know, they would be shooting rockets, and the rockets would just, like, freeze on the screen. So for me, I didn't have the best experience. It felt like moving fast through caramel the whole time. Like I was going really quickly, but I could never quite catch up to anyone. So it was a really weird feeling game for me. I'll definitely still check out the single player, but I don't know how much I'm sold on the multiplayer. But they still have some time to fix some of those things. I also got a chance to play Assault Android Cactus. If you guys like twin-stick shooters, oh man, that game is spectacular. It's really, really good. I said like 3 weeks ago I was going to do a review on the website, and I'm still going to. But, you know, life. But no, it's really good. I highly recommend it if you like a solid twin-stick shooter. That is a really good one to jump into. Speaking of twin-stick shooters, enter the Gungeon. Kind of a Binding of Isaac meets here's a whole lot of cool guns. Really, really fun little game as well. Part of the what is that Sony promotion going on right now? Launch Party? That's what it is. Launch
Yeah,
Party. So part of that. Yeah, so part of that. Really cool, fun little game. Definitely recommend checking that out if you enjoyed Binding of Isaac. Got some time to play Salt and Sanctuary, which is also part of the Launch Party. 2D Dark Souls. I did an initial impressions of that on the website. It's a pretty deep game. It's a pretty long game, so I'm only about 10 hours into it, but it is a good time. And the icing on the cake, played a little bit of The Division. Not as in love with it as Nathan is, but it's fun. It's a good time. Only about level 10 or so, but I'm enjoying my time with it. So over the last month or so, that's kind of what I've been playing.
Awesome. I was about to say, every time you give a gaming update, you put the rest of us to shame with the amount of stuff you play. But then I did forget. It's been like a month, so it's understandable. Yeah. Did you say Doom was like walking through caramel?
I did.
Okay.
I did.
Awesome shout out then back to episode 7.
I listen too.
All right, perfect. All right, so since we're on the subject of caramel, then obviously we have to go next to Coach Mo. What have you been up to, bud?
I played a little bit of The Division. I'm a little farther along. I'm at level, I think I just got 20. Still, I wish I would have just bitten the bullet and dived in with a group of friends who are playing and just gotten caught up with them. Because that game's, I don't think it's fun by yourself. Like, I don't have a good time when it's just me playing. But when I play with them, I basically just am like, hey, I'm another camera on the screen watching you guys play because I can't kill anybody. So I was having, but I played a lot of Dirt Rally for the Xbox One. Really enjoying that one so far. A little Quantum Break. And then I've spent probably the most of my time with MLB The Show 16. So having a lot of fun with that one. I I wish they would have made a Vita version. That's where I want to play that game, and it's really hard to jump on my Vita at work and get on the remote play, where it used to be I could just jump on and be playing on the game right there. So other than that, that's about it for me.
Alrighty, then Donnie, you're up next.
What am I playing? I am playing Twilight Princess. The same game I've been playing since March 4th. I just finished the Ice Cavern. I forgot about that entire dungeon, to be honest with you. It's a fetch quest. It's probably the best Zelda fetch quest, at least in my recent thinking, because it is a dungeon, and you have to go and get all these items to go and get the next one. It's so much better because you're traveling like within this one house. It doesn't take forever like Wind Waker's does. I was actually, when I was playing it, I was like, you know what? I kind of wish that they kind of worked these fetch quests more into this dungeon mechanic as opposed to this explorative, go visit the world type thing. I played some Mini Mario and Friends. I bought Marth, the amiibo, at Best Buy just so I could get Mini Mario and Friends, as much as I said I'm going to wait because it's going to be free in about 20 days. I wanted to play it anyway, and I'm glad I did. It's great on 3DS. It's good on Wii U. It's not amazing. It doesn't look as good as the Donkey Kong versus Mario, in my opinion. Or this, what was it called? Donkey Kong versus Mario.
Minis, I think. March of the Minis.
No, that's not it. It was
No?
like I think that's the DS title. Oh God, it had like Sticker Star, something like that. Tipping Stars.
Yes, Tipping Stars. Yep.
Yep, there you go. Mario vs. Donkey Kong Tipping Stars. That game really looks really good. Like it's a lot of high polish on that one. This one's not so much. I'm a little disappointed. The amiibos, when they kind of showcased it, I was really kind of hoping that there was like some action elements, like maybe like a quick time element, like where you pressed a button and made the thing do something. It doesn't. Every amiibo unlocks a character, and the character has a different skill, and if you choose the right character with the right skill and the right puzzle, you can get through the level. So it's just more Mario v Donkey Kong, which is great. I do love those games. They're really good time killers, but not the newest greatest thing to gaming. I played a lot of Miitomo this week. I checked it like every day when I woke up. It's kind of like my wake up schedule. Am I the only one that's noticed that the coins that you earn have went drastically down from like the first week?
Yeah, they threw a bunch of bonus ones at you at the start, and now I think now the pacing is where it's going to be from here on out.
Okay, because the other day I couldn't even buy a shirt, and I was like, wow, that's new. So I played some Miitomo, and I played some more Fire Emblem on my 3DS at work, and I'm trying to think if there's anything else. I played some Super Mario World today while I watched the Masters. And speaking of the Masters, I started a Super Mario Golf Tour for PSVG. Check the forum, playsomevideogames.com. Click on the forum link. We will be having 7 tournaments this year where I will be giving away a prize to the winner. And right now I am in the lead at the inaugural PSVG Masters at 14 under. We've got about 3 or 4 people competing already, so get your rounds in. The tournament will be open probably, I think it's for at least the next 6 or 7 days. So you got plenty of time to get your best round in. Mario Golf on 3DS is one of my favorite games ever, let alone just on that handheld. So if you have Mario Golf on 3DS and you want to compete for what will most likely be gift cards, I might give away an amiibo here or there or a download code for a game. Well, right now I'm thinking eShop gift cards to GameStop, something like that. We'll post all the details in the forum for each one. We'll basically host it around the PGA Tour, so when the U.S. Open happens, we'll have a PSVG U.S. Open, something like that, and holidays. So that's been my gaming for the past week.
And don't worry, boys and girls, Donnie cheats from what I heard on golf.
That's
so
right.
It's fixed. Don't worry about it. All right, so my week actually blew through a bunch of games. So I did finish Until Dawn. Great game. If you have a PS4, it's definitely worth a playthrough. If you can pick it up for $20 or less, I think it's definitely worth a playthrough. It's not terribly long, probably about maybe 10 to 12 hours at the most if you do a lot of exploring, but it's a great choose-your-own-adventure in the same spirit as the Telltale games, but graphically looks a whole lot better. It's very much in the campy 90s horror style, like Scream or I Know What You Did Last Summer. But it was pretty fun. Voice acting and the cast is fantastic, so it was a blast. From there, I went and I did try Dead Star. Not sold on it. Not that I was really anticipating being a huge fan of it, because as I said before, I'm getting kind of burnt out from the retro top-down shooters. The multiplayer aspect does bring a little bit more to the table. It's a little fun that way, but didn't really hold my attention that much. So then I moved on to the other free PlayStation Plus title of Zombie, and I went to try and compare it to the Wii U version. If you don't have a Wii U, then give this a shot. It's fun. It's definitely a little bit different than some of the other zombie games, but a lot is missed by not playing it on the tablet from the Wii U. The multifunction tablet itself takes a lot away from the game itself, but it's free, so you can't really complain. Did also spend some time playing Grand Theft Auto 5, which I really like this game, which is weird because I've never really been a huge fan of the Grand Theft Auto games, but this one, the story just is much, much better. The characters are intriguing. Definitely a different feel for a Rockstar game for me than what I've seen in the past. And then today I started The Witcher 3, so haven't really delved too deep into that yet. Doesn't have me hooked yet, but I maybe spent an hour at most playing it, so I'll have a better feel on it in a couple of days or so. But that's what I've been doing.
So, if you were upset that Donnie keeps going on and on about Twilight Princess, you'll be happy to know that for the next 8 months, Kevin will be telling you about The Witcher.
No, I can't because it was a rental from the library, and I believe it has to go back on the 12th. So no.
Nice. So you're essentially doing a demo of The Witcher.
Yes, yeah. I mean, the tutorial itself was like a half hour plus the story at the beginning. So the first hour was like, hey, you got to do one quick mission. So
nice.
It looks cool, but I've never been a big fan of like the medieval style games, so I'm not sure it would be a massive undertaking for me like a Fallout 4 or something like that. So, but it is pretty cool, definitely. I understand the hype behind it. I totally get it from playing it. But yeah, so I think from here we'll move on to the topic of this evening, and that is the conversation of physical versus digital media. Gaming industry has kind of been trying to make a huge push the last couple of years to get people to transition over to digital. Some people, gravitated towards that right away and grasped right onto it, and then other people are, going kicking and screaming into the night and want to carry that disc with them until the end of time. So we figured it'd be a cool topic to bring up and kind of get our opinions, let you know how we feel, what we prefer, why we prefer that, and et cetera, et cetera. So let's kick it off then in this instance with Donnie. What's your take on the whole digital versus physical debate?
Well, I'd like to say that I'm going to ride the fence on this one. I'm kind of an interesting case study in this scenario where all of my Nintendo stuff is primarily physical, to the extent that the games that I really like on Nintendo, I have bought both the physical and the digital copy. However, all of my 360 and PS4 purchases are all digital, 100%. That's primarily because my PS4 purchases, to me, the physical purchases, they lose value quickly. I remember my launch titles, for example. By the time I played them, I could only sell them on Amazon for $15 or $20, trade them in GameStop for $5. And I was like, well, I'm not going to play them anymore. Why do I have these discs? And they don't really have enough value for me to get rid of. And I didn't really enjoy that kind of being in there. Whereas I feel like the Nintendo product holds its value. I got Wind Waker digitally for free with that Nintendo Club Nintendo promotion they had before it ended, but I still have my physical copy. It's one of my favorite games of all time, so I'm never going to get rid of it. It's going to sit there right in my box. However, if I wanted to get rid of it right now, I could sell it on Amazon for like $40. Considering that I've already beat the game, I mean, that's really good trade back. And most Nintendo games really hold their value. Mario Tennis, for example, is a really poorly rated Wii U game, and it went on sale this week for like $30. And I was like, well, I'm still not going to buy it. But I was still thinking, I was like, man, even this game, as poorly rated as it was, it's still only $30. The digital purchases really hold a lot of value for me, like on PlayStation for remote play. I had a Vita for a long time, and I always wanted to remote play, and you cannot remote play unless you like call your wife to have her switch a disc if you're all disc based. So having everything digitally is very convenient. Um, on my PC, obviously, everything I have is digital, and that's because usually that drives the price down. It's very cheap to buy games via Steam or even other stuff. Um, the consoles really haven't caught up to that. There have been very few times, where I've looked at a game on the PlayStation or Xbox store and I said, wow, that's going to save me a lot of money over buying the physical copy. The one time that I really can think of was this past year, back in November on Black Friday. I got The Witcher for $25, and I think I got Assassin's Creed Syndicate for maybe 30. I've yet to play either one of them, but I did buy them at that point because they were significantly cheaper than their physical copies. And sometimes I will jump on a digital deal just if I feel like it's a fair deal. Primarily, I guess on the debate as a whole, I like having physical discs, cartridges, like my entire 3DS library, in terms of like what I would consider like the AAA games, like the Fire Emblems and the Zeldas. I've bought all of those physically. I carry a 3DS case that holds, I think, about 12 cartridges, and I swap the cart. However, I do have a lot of digitally downloaded games, like all the indie games. I bought Mario Golf digitally, so I'm really kind of in a mix. It's games that I'm going to play a lot of, that I like, games that I'm 100% in, and like everybody knows that, you have that game. Everybody has that style where you're like, I'm 100% into Fallout. I'm 100% into Star Wars. I'm 100% into Zelda. I usually buy those digitally, if that's your game. If it's something I'm kind of on the fence about or something that I'm trying out, I will generally buy it physical. So if I don't like it, I can swap it, or I can get rid of it. I can unload it and move on, just to kind of, cover my bases. So at least in this debate, I am very much kind of on the fence. I'm doing one thing over here, and I'm doing a completely other thing over there. So I'm not a really good case study.
All right, fair enough. I totally agree with you with the whole Nintendo aspect. I think their games always hold a way better resale value long term than any of the others do too. Plus, it's a little bit harder to go all digital, I think, on the Wii U, for instance, just simply because of storage space. Even if you have that deluxe console, I think it'd be kind of hard to fit a substantial amount of content on there. So
Well,
I think
I've got that external hard drive hooked up to it. And I've copied that hard drive twice, actually, as a backup, because we don't have a shop that we can go and re-download everything. So just in case mine crashes, I actually have a backup of all my purchases.
Good call. I never thought to do that. For me, I'm a big physical guy mostly. I will do a digital occasionally if I get a sale. That's kind of the one thing that makes me jump over, is just to get a good deal. I'm a deal tracker. I'll get the best value, get the best price on any game I can. And generally speaking, at least with the console gaming, the physical copies always seem to get you a better deal than you see on digital terms in most cases. It's not like Steam, where they'll do these crazy sales where you can get a AAA title for $5. You don't see that too much on the digital, on the PlayStation or Xbox end. So I'm primarily physical. I like being able to let people borrow a game too. If I'm like, hey, you totally got to check this game out, I like being able to hand that to somebody. And I think that's another value besides trading back games or reselling games, or simply, I'm the kind of guy who likes looking at my shelf and saying, oh, these are all the games I got here for Wii U. Oh, I forgot about this game. Let me go back and pick it up and play it. With digital, once you kind of delete it off your hard drive, unless you have some sort of way of like reminding yourself what you had purchased maybe like 2 years ago, I think you'd probably find yourself forgetting about games you maybe have purchased and never get around to them again. But that's just me. Mo, what's your take on it?
I am almost exclusively physical. And the reason why is I'm still very new to buying games. I've been playing non-sports games for probably 4 years now. And so there was a game that came out a couple years ago called Max Payne 3. And I just bought it last weekend for $5 at GameStop. I'm going to play that. I'm going to get the achievements. I'm going to find out what Rockstar did in this cool world with this guy named Max Payne who I know nothing about, and then I'm going to trade it back for $2. So I just rented this game for $2, and I get money back on it. And so I'm a big fan of my games being currency, where after I've played it and I'm done with it, I can trade it in. If you buy it online, if you do the digital thing, you get no return. There's no money back on that. Like, you just said, nope, this is finite. I am buying this. I'm going to have it forever in one way or another. Whether it's wasting storage space, where it's just sitting there in the internet world, it's there. I'm currently sitting at about 250 Xbox 360 physical games that I have in my man cave. I have almost 100 Xbox One. And so I love having that collection to go look at it, to kind of dive into these different worlds and experience them, to hunt the achievements. And if it's a game that I'm like, I'm never going to play this again, I go trade it back in after I've gotten the achievements I want out of it, or I've gotten the story I want out of it, or the experience. And that's why I love physical copies. I love the fact that there are places I can go to buy pre-owned games, whether it's a local mom and pop or a GameStop or Best Buy. I can go in and I can pick up these games who nobody else might see. You know, I bought Happy Feet 2 the other day. Why? I don't know. But I'm going to play it, and I'm probably going to have a good time with it, because for some reason those, I don't remember who directed or made it, but Disney Pixar-esque games, I'm talking like Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs, the video game, the Disney Universe one, those are really fun. They're just fun experiences to have, where you get to dive in with characters that you might not ever actually get to experience playing with.
Disney Universe was fun. I just want to point that out. That was a fun game. I had a blast with that too.
See, and it's stuff like that where these little one-off games that may have not gotten any traction, hardcore gamers may never have played them. I can go pick them up for $4 or $5 at a pre-owned store and bring them home and dive in and get some enjoyment out of it. And I love having that collection and seeing them on the wall, you know. So physical all the way.
All right, I'm right there with you. Kyle, you're up last, buddy.
So I think this is a really interesting topic on a lot of different fronts, because if you listen to the games I talked about that I had played before, 4 of the 5 of them were only available digitally. Like, you couldn't get them any other way. That was the only way they were available. One was a beta, but still, 4 of the 5, just digital, the only way you could get them. And I think a lot of people, so that's one thing. I mean, if there's a game you can only get digitally and it's a game you want to play, that's what you got to do. One thing, though, that I think people talk about all the time is cost, right? Like, if a game just comes out, why is it $60 online or digitally, when it's $60 in store, when they have to pay all this money, where the digital game should be less? Like, producing the physical game was more money. Why is it, the same price? I think it was an Ubisoft exec who talked about this, that they talked about the fact that if they take all these extra resources to produce this physical disc and put it on a store shelf, they don't want to discount the digital game, because they want you to buy that other game because of the investment they had to make in producing it. Which makes sense. I mean, I think it kind of stinks for us as gamers sometimes, but I get that rationale, the rationale of it costs us an extra $20 for pressing and shipping and packaging for this game. We want to try to recoup that investment as quickly as we can. So rather than having, the digital version half the price, we want to drive people to purchase that physical version. If they're trying to say, well, one's physical, one's digital, same price, I'll take the actual physical object. So I think that's one interesting thing to think about. Another thing that I always think about too is just internet. I am not blessed with very good internet. In the town I currently live in, there's 2 options for internet. The internet that I have, which is very, very reliable, but very, very slow. I've never had an internet outage with them in 2 years that I know of, that I've ever experienced. So never had an outage, but it's very consistent, but it's very slow. The other provider in town is very, very quick, but extremely unreliable. So it's kind of like, well, what's the worst of 2 evils there? So right now I'm like, well, I want to make sure that when I want to access the internet, I can. Doesn't always do the best for then downloading large games. So that's one thing that I always think about too, is like, okay, if I go and download this game, do I have to let this thing run all night in order to download and then maybe be ready for me to play the next day? So that's always something I think about. Along with storage space, right? I mean, these consoles, this current console generation, the 1 terabyte versions are starting to become a thing. But at 500 gigabytes, it wasn't long before that was full for me. So then it's juggling the what do I delete, what do I keep, what can I move to where, do I want to upgrade my hard drive, but if I do, can I still keep PT, which I'll talk about more in a second, and how does that whole process work, and how do you manage all of those things? So right now, I think just with the size of games, like if you look at the size of Quantum Break, for instance, that game is massive. I mean, if you're on a 500 gigabyte Xbox One, that's a quarter of all of your storage space if you download the cutscenes. So I think that's just another thing that I don't know if these consoles shipped with as big of hard drives as they should have. At the time, I think we were like, oh, 500 gigs, that's great. But I think very, very quickly we learned that's not super great. And I think finally just really is the idea of when you buy digitally, what are you really buying? Are you buying the game or are you purchasing a license to use the product? Which is what courts have said we're doing, right? That there's been court cases about this. And I think PT is a perfect example. It just went away. Like if you had PT, granted it was free, but if you had it and you didn't and you downloaded it but got rid of it for whatever reason, you can't get it back now. It's just gone. And that's something that doesn't really ever happen with physical. So there's all these things that I try to balance, and this is probably way more than anybody else thinks about when they're looking at buying games digitally versus physically. But I just think it's a lot of things that I try to kind of mull over and figure out what's going to be the best case scenario. With day one patches now too, that's something that even if you buy a physical game, you come home and you still have to download this huge thing anyway, so you're really saving time. I got the opportunity to get an early copy of Ratchet and Clank, which is spectacular, by the way. Just an amazingly gorgeous game, but there was no day one patch, and I was like, what's going on? This seems so weird. Why is there no patch for this game? But it just works. How cool is that? So that is a situation where if I knew it was going to be like that, I probably always would buy physical. But I think there's a lot of different things to think about, and I think that, you know, if internet infrastructure gets to a point where speeds are high enough for everyone and, you know, we're able to get big enough hard drives into all these consoles, I can see a all digital future, but just with like things that have happened with PT, sometimes that concerns me.
Makes sense to me. I totally agree with the storage space thing. I think when they launched, we're like, oh, absolutely no problem at all. We got this. And then all of a sudden these huge patches would come out and just the size of the games and like Xbox being like, hey, we're going to install this whole thing to your hard drive for you, okay? No, yeah, no problem, no problem. And then, you know, 10 games in and your hard drive's full. It's kind of crazy.
I have a question for everybody. It really pertains kind of to the Wii U and its place currently in the marketplace. I find that I hold on to my Wii U games because, and I prefer them physically over their digital copies because they actually run off the disc. I can't tell you how jarring it was when I bought my PS4 and I came home and I put my Killzone in and then I got, please wait for the game to install to play it. I bought, you know, NBA 2K, I think it was 14 at the time, and I had to sit there and play a demo while it took about an hour to install. I mean, on the Xbox One and the PS4, you're not really buying physical games anymore. You're buying a download. You're still downloading the game either way. It's going to sit on your hard drive. You're going to expend the space. You're going to expend the time that it's going to take to do all of that. Whereas the Wii U, you pop the disc in, and some games have updates, but not always. But when the game is updated to its latest version, you pop the disc in, you hit play, and it plays. For some odd reason, call me old school or weird, I don't know, call me Homer, but for some odd reason, I feel like they're actually like more of a physical product than the other products. If that makes any sense, like I kind of wonder. Let's just say they took support offline for NBA 2K14. If you put a disc in and it wasn't on the store digitally, like, could you still play the game? Like, even though we don't have DRM per se, I still feel like everything's kind of based on the PS4 and the Xbox One in a digital marketplace, and that's fine. I'm okay with it. I don't mean to come off as saying like it's bad. I just feel like for me, that's a big reason why I'm very digital on those storefronts and very physical on Nintendo storefront.
On the Xbox One, you can still play the disc offline, and so it would have been 2 summers ago when the people who like to hack stuff and ruin Christmas did the thing they did. And everybody else that I knew that I was talking to was like, oh, I can't play my game, but I can't do this. I just put my Xbox One to offline and was playing Madden over the whole Christmas day. It didn't affect me at all. I was playing my I think it's the same Christmas, but NBA 2K14. There was a shooter that I was playing the story mode on. I think it was Wolfenstein, and didn't affect me. Like I was like, nope, I can just go offline and play because I have the disc. And so for me, like that's one of the perks that if the internet does go down, I still have this disc that still allows me to play. So.
But if your internet goes down and you've already installed the game, you can still play it for a period of time before that comes up as an issue, right?
I don't know if it's one of those ones with where you wouldn't like on EA Access. I have NHL 2K16, right? Or NHL 16. That's not 2K. Sorry, just wishing 2K was still alive. And so on NHL 16, I just downloaded that. It took like 8 seconds because I already had the game installed and traded it in my copy because I'm like, oh, I'm just going to use this thing that I already paid for. Why not have it? So I do that, but if the internet's off, I can't access it. It won't let me because it needs EA Access to say, yep, it's cool for you to use this.
Interesting.
Yeah, I mean, I know, like, as a PlayStation person, I mean, the PSN goes down often enough that I know I'm still able to play games. So I've never ran into an issue yet where I either haven't been connected or if, like, PSN's down, that I haven't been able to play the game I want to play. I mean, the only time that's ever happened is if, like, the server for a specific game is down because that specific game is doing an update or that particular game is having an issue. So yeah, outside of PSN being down, and I'm not trying to play like an online something, I've always been able to play my games.
Yeah, that makes sense. I kind of forgot about the whole fact that like, hey, you put in a Wii U game, you're able to just play it. You don't have to wait for massive patch or anything else to come through or the installation. Popping in The Witcher today was a huge mistake. I probably should have put it in last night before I went to bed because the size of the patch and the updates that came through, it took, I have Verizon Fios internet, it's pretty quick. It took 95 minutes just to install the patch and get the game up and running, which was insane, but I knew that going into it that if I had skipped it and went to play, I could have, but everybody had said like the menu text was way too small before the patches, so I just waited it out and just bit the bullet and played some Zombie and some Dead Star in between. But yeah, you're totally right. I kind of forgot about the whole aspect of, putting in a Nintendo game and, hey, it just plays. I can go ahead and play it, but the other ones have to install and patch and update and whatnot. So yeah, it's kind of a bummer.
Unfortunately, I think the days of you putting a game in might be over. Like the days of you just putting a game in and just playing, that we might be at the very end of that rope.
All right, I think we've kind of all said our piece on this one, so let's move on to some news.
This week in Play Some Video Game News.
Kyle, why don't you hit us up with a news story?
Well, as the PlayStation guy, I'm sure most people expect me to talk about PlayStation 4.5 or 4K or whatever, but you know what? I'm not going to because everyone else is, and it's all just conjecture. If somebody else on this podcast wants to, great. I just don't really have any thoughts on it right now. So instead, I'm going to talk about the leaks that suggest the new God of War will be based in Norse mythology. If you don't follow Shinobi602 on Twitter, you should. He's kind of an industry insider, has leaked and given some heads up on many things in the past, and is typically pretty solid about them. But he tweeted this week that across the rainbow bridge to the halls of Valhalla, my boy, hashtag God of War 4. So that kind of started some people looking, and then some concept art was found on the webpage of a Sony Santa Monica artist suggesting the series was in fact leaving the world of Greek mythology and heading to the Norse mythology. Now, as a side note, I'm not really a fan of how that art was found. There definitely was some hacking and some accessing of password-protected parts of websites done to do that, which I think is really disappointing. I'm a big fan of getting information and getting tidbits of stuff, but I'm pretty disappointed to learn that that's the way that was done. I think that it's really unfortunate for that artist, and that's just not the way we should be finding things out. So that's a bit disappointing. But with that aside, I mean, I think it's interesting, and honestly, I really welcome a change. I'm a fan of the God of War series more for like the action combat than I am for the story or Kratos, who's just pissed off about life all the time. I don't find him to be a super, super interesting, protagonist. Now, nobody knows for certain if they're going to stick with him. The concept art that was leaked had a bearded person in it that may or may not be him, but I'm just really excited for them to kind of spread their wings. Hopefully, I think Norse mythology would be a cool thing for them to check out. I think it'd help add some fun color potentially to the God of War games. And there's some rumors. Some people have thought that this game, which has been in development since about 2014, people think, there's been some thoughts that this might be announced at E3 and released this fall already. So I'll be interested to see if that happens this fall. It's starting to get pretty packed already. We don't have a ton of release dates, but there's a lot of conjecture about what's coming out this fall. But yeah, I'm excited for new God of War. I really like those styles of games and the gameplay, and this just seems like a really cool place to take the franchise.
Kyle, so just for clarification before, and I'll let other people ask other questions, but just for clarification for this person that's maybe not in the loop, Norse mythology, are we talking Vikings?
God of Thor.
Yeah, Thor.
Odin.
Yep.
Okay, that sounds awesome.
Yeah, I agree. I remember this was teased very shortly after God of War 3 came out, too. I remember them talking about wanting to explore Norse mythology, and then it kind of just died down, so I assumed it was dead and buried, but this was pretty exciting to hear, this popping out. I agree. Kratos was very much a one-dimensional, just angry dude, which, it fit the storyline, it fit what was going on there, but for him now to somehow cross mythology into another realm, if you will, is stretching it. I know it's kind of weird to talk about a fictional thing and saying that's a stretch, but
I mean they're gonna do a new character.
Perfect.
Right? No, they're gonna do a new character. They're not gonna do Kratos.
No.
I don't know. It almost seems like, all right, so it would make more sense to use the Norse God of War. However, if you've played the God of War games, to see Kratos just be like, I'm out of gods to kill, let's go over to a different mythology, it almost would work. It just would be a very weird concept. I'm not saying I'd be against it. I'm just saying it'd be really weird to see Kratos just going after like Loki and Odin and Thor.
I would be against it.
Here's how it should be set up. Kratos kills everybody. He's just like, man, I finally paid everybody back. And he goes on vacation. And he's just chilling. He meets a lady. They start doing Kratos things. Just get angry. Just yelling at stuff. She likes to yell stuff too. Then Odin comes down. Because Odin was a bad dude in Norse mythology.
Yeah.
So he comes down and he takes the lady. And Kratos goes, time to mount up. Let's do this. I'm sorry. I'm ready for this. This is the perfect way to set it up.
You've heard it here first on Play Some Video Games, folks.
It's time to mount up. Some East Coast, West Coast stuff. What's going on over here with the North?
You know it. That's how he is. Renegades! Mount up.
Kyle, I agree with you. I like the God of War games for what they are. It's a great little action platformer. It's more about the gameplay than the story, and the story is fine. It's more about the visual element, the environment, and the gameplay over the character and the story. So I think a new setting is great. I think a new setting would provide a much-needed refresher, reboot. I mean, there's only so many Greek gods that you can slaughter before you're really starting to scrape the barrel. I really hope they have a new protagonist over Kratos. I think that would be in their best interest. But I'm up for whatever. I will tell you this. I'm excited to see it run. I bet it looks extremely good, as those games always do. The whole button masher beat 'em up is kind of a lost art, and I always enjoy those when they come out. So I'm excited for it. I don't know a whole lot of Norse mythology. I don't even know who Odin is. So when I kind of heard this earlier in the week, I just kind of accepted Vikings. I was like, oh, it sounds like Vikings. So I took that on. It should be make for some really great environments, and maybe it'll be surprising. I do know that we've been hearing about this for a long time in terms of leaks, so I kind of agree with you, Kyle. This sounds like something that should come out this fall. So it should be, in my mind, I'm sitting here thinking, we know Horizon's coming. That's their flagpole. That's the tent. Here we go. Horizon, PS4 Horizon. And then I think the late summer, early fall game, so that July, August, is finally The Last Guardian. If you're still excited for it, you'll finally get it. And then the one to round it off is God of War, and then they'll just kind of tie themselves to the other third parties. And that's a really good lineup for a console that has, 30 million plus owners. However, I just me thinking, man, I'm really kind of hoping that their first party studios start churning out more content. I'm somewhat scared. I don't mean to derail the topic, but I'm somewhat scared that we get to E3 and 70% of Sony's first party studios show a VR game instead of a PS4 game.
Well, I mean, Shuhei has said that, he's not going to make, and Sony's not going to make a first-party studio work on VR if they don't want to. And I think right now, the only one that really is Gorilla Cambridge, and then I think like their North London studio are the only two who are actively known working on VR, and then I guess Polyphony with Gran Turismo. But who knows? Like, we don't know what Ben's doing. Nobody knows what Ben's doing right now. We haven't heard from their game in forever. What's Sucker Punch doing? I mean, there's definitely the possibility that some of their bigger studios will come out and say they're doing VR. But if you're Sony and you're like, okay, we have Ratchet & Clank coming out on Tuesday, which isn't a huge one, is not first party, but it's a really great game from the parts I've played. Then you have Uncharted in May, No Man's Sky in June. If you can have Last Guardian in July, August, Horizon in September, October, and then God of War in November, like that's a really solid year.
I think you swap Horizon and God of War, and I hope you're right. I really do, and that's why we, added you to the team, our resident PS expert, knowing all of their teams and studios. But, I mean, it just seems like, compared to the PS3, like they really won me over last gen. I came over with The Last of Us and then started to dig into the back catalog with Infamous and Uncharted because I kept hearing about this great first-party content. They started to go that, dare I say, Nintendo route, where they started to say, hey, our games are just better than yours. Come check out this exclusive library. And so far, I mean, I bought the PS4 for Last of Us 2. No bones about it. I was like, they're going to make one. It's eventually going to come. It's not going to come for a long time, but it will happen. And when it does, I'm going to have the console that plays it. But, man, I keep looking at them. I'm like, come on, Sony. I need more games. I need more quantity from you.
All right, so little history lesson here. I looked at the photos, the leaked photos, and looked at the protagonist, if you will, and it does look like Kratos simply because of the tattoos on him. The tattoos are his markings, his red, very bold markings. But he does rock a beard. But since as you noted, I don't know a whole ton of Norse mythology either, other than Odin and them. But so Tyr is the ancient god of war and lawgiver of the gods in Norse mythology. So basically, this dude is the police of the gods. He sacrifices his hand so that the evil Fenris wolf may be bound, and at one time he was the leader of all Norse mythology, but was taken down by Odin much later. So I think that would make an awesome story. So maybe he just happens to resemble Kratos, but if it's this storyline, it seems to be pretty cool. So
I was just about to ask, do you think they're maybe doing the Link thing, where it's maybe even his name's Kratos, but it's not Kratos, it's a different Kratos?
I think they'll use the Norse name, but make him look like Kratos to keep the God of War aspect of it, I think they kind of have to use the Norse name in order to tie it in Norse mythology, because otherwise it's very weird if Kratos just shows up, because Kratos was, a god in Greek mythology, so I think they kind of have to keep the names consistent with the mythology, but the appearance can make them look, so like Link always looks the same, but it's always a different Link. I think this God of War, per se, will be a different name, but will still resemble itself. All right, so cool. Excellent story, Kyle. You got us all jacked up for that. So, Mo, why don't you go ahead and hit us up with some news?
Well, I actually have one that involves PlayStation as well. They have one of the biggest sports franchises released annually, and it's MLB The Show. MLB The Show announced they're actually going to be giving you guys some free in-game currency because their servers were, lack of a better word, horrible the first 2 weeks out. So you can look for some free packs, and I think they said about 5,000 stubs, which will help your My Player get that fastball up around 98 miles an hour if that's what you want to use it for.
So basically they're going to juice all your players?
Yep.
Okay.
They've decided to be the steroids for MLB The Show. They're just gonna pass the juice box right back on out for you.
I'm surprised they haven't actually added steroids like to the campaign, like the My Player mode. That would make that game so much more interesting if you could choose to take steroids.
They just need to get
Run the risk of
Spike Lee to
getting
write the
caught.
story for them.
I mean,
Yeah,
you could
right.
have like a quick time puzzle element where if you failed, you get caught. Like that'd be.
Oh,
It's a quick time event. You gotta hide the needles quick enough before the coach walks in.
Oh man, it'd be so good.
Man, we're giving out so many free ideas on this podcast.
gosh, what?
Hey,
Yep.
in related news, A-Rod hit a homer today, so we should.
Hey. Yankees fan over here.
Hey, if you want to sell your soul to the devil for rings, that's up to you, man. I'm not.
It's all good. I'm over it.
I'm a Cubs fan. We just like to look at other people with rings.
I'm an Indians fan. We're in the same boat.
It's like, oh, what's that you got there? How do you get one of those?
All right, Donnie, why don't you give us some news?
The PlayStation 4 update, codename Musashi, came out this week. It allows you to peer offline. It allows you to enable your friend online notification. It allows you to schedule events. And most importantly, it allows you to perform remote play. I've already tested this out. It works surprisingly well. It works just like it did on the Vita. That's to say that you download their application. If you don't know where to get it, go to playsomevideogames.com. We have a story on it. You download their little PC app. You turn it on. You go to your PS4. You add a device. I believe it still states add a Vita. It's like add remote play for Vita. And you type in a code. I always prefer to type in the code. For those of you that don't know, you're given two options. You're given an option to look for a PS4 on the same network or to type in the code. Choose the type in the code because that allows you to discover your PS4 when you're not on the same network, as in you're trying to discover your PS4 from work or from vacation. If you simply just look for the Wi-Fi, it'll simply just find your PS4 on your Wi-Fi and allow you to remote play to it. It'll work better on your own Wi-Fi. However, most people that think about remote play, they think about when they're not at home, not while they are at home. You do have to plug in your DualShock 4 via USB. You can't do it wirelessly yet. That's not really a big deal for me. I find that on my I find that on my PC, I typically run a wired controller for all games. My Steam games, I run a wired 360 controller. My emulator stuff, I run a wired N64 controller. And now for my remote play, I'm running a wired PS4 controller. It works really well. Check your settings. The settings by default are really low. It's like 540p resolution and 30 frames a second. You can turn them up. It's kind of sad that they didn't turn them up by default. But other than that, you type in the code verifies, you move on about your business. If you're one of the folks that set your PS4 to rest by default, so when you turn it off, the little yellow light glows, remote play can actually turn your PS4 on. I've actually already tested it from work, so I work about 40 miles away from my house, and I took my laptop to work, and I plugged it in, and I said, find my PS4. It took about 5 minutes to find it, but once it did, I was remote playing my PS4 from work just like I did on my Vita, and everybody, that's why I got rid of my Vita, because I knew remote play was coming, and that's exactly what I used my Vita for, and I didn't need my Vita anymore, so there we go. It's a really good update. I wanted to provide the news on the update. It works on Windows 8.1 and above. I do not believe it works on Windows 7 or below. But more importantly than just the update, because that's kind of old news already because it came earlier in the week, I wanted to ask everybody on the podcast and anybody listening out there, if you want to write into the show, what are some updates for consoles or platforms that you already have that you wish happened? So, for example, right now, the PlayStation 4 does not support an external hard drive when the Xbox One does, and so does the Wii U. So are there any updates out there on your current hardware that you want to see happen?
I'll go first on this one. So we were talking about it a little bit earlier, and I realized why you told me to save it then. For me, the library function in the PS4 where it keeps track of any your digital purchases, any games you played and then kind of uninstalled. It shoves them over into the library menu. I would love to be able to delete stuff off my library because I don't need to know that, hey, you downloaded a demo 3 years ago that you didn't care about and you played for about 5 minutes. Or I don't need to be reminded that I can no longer download PT because I deleted it and it still reminds me, it still shows up there, but I can't remove it. So that drives me nuts. The external hard drive function, that would be pretty cool, but I primarily only use that to play digital movies, which does work on the PS4. I was doing it this afternoon. As a matter of fact, I watched like 2 movies off an external hard drive. But as far as doing like backup saves and stuff like that, I'd love to be able to use the external hard drive on the PS4.
I think for me, the only things I really can think of off the top of my head would be some sort of folder or file management system really similar to what Kevin's talking about. I wish I could have a little more control over what is where and what I see and don't see. And if there are things that even if you can't let me delete them, let me put them in a folder so I don't have to stare at them all the time that I never go into. That would be nice. And then honestly, yeah, the external hard drive thing would be the only other thing. I have contemplated many times upgrading my hard drive, and I'm too tech stupid to jump into it because I'm too worried that I'm going to lose things I don't want to lose, specifically PT. So those really are the only 2 things off the top of my head I can think of that I would like to have.
I have 3, and they're all Xbox One related. I would love it if we could do what we used to be able to do with the Wii, where my Xbox Elite controller could just save my profile to it. I would love to be able to go from my Xbox up in my room down to the Xbox in the living room and not have to relog myself in. Just go, oh, this is Mo's controller. Mo, do you want to log in? Like, yeah, I want to log in because I want to hang out down here and play games because my wife's working on school stuff and she wants me to just be in the same room. I would love for them to bring back the old achievement tracker where it shows you how bad you're beating your friends or how bad you're losing to your friends on a main page. I don't like having to go through 3 different menus to finally go, Nate's beating me by 150 achievements. I need to get my button gear. And last, I would love it if every time a backwards compatible game is moved up, that my Xbox One searches my 360 history to see if I own it still or if I have it, and then pulls it up onto some kind of menu and says, hey, I see that you have Hannah Montana the game. Do you want to add this to your Xbox One library?
Yes, you do.
And I'm like, of course I do. but you know what I mean? Like stuff like that where it's like, oh, I see that you played Mercenaries 2, but that is now backwards compatible. Do you want to bring that up? Stuff like that, I think that'd be great.
Just so we're not ganging up on the PS4 and the Xbox One, most namely the PS4. I'm really kind of pissed off that on the Wii U, you have to toggle between the little Wara Wara Plaza that boots up at launch and your game menu. I kind of wish that I could just set my console to let my game menu go on my TV screen and let me navigate on it instead of seeing the stupid Mii's run around in a circle.
Yeah.
I'm also kind of pissed off that I can't control Netflix with a Wii remote.
Yes.
I have to use the gamepad. That's so stupid. The Wii remote is such a great TV remote. I love the motion controller and the just kind of pick and scroll that you get with the Wii remote. The fact that I have to go and get my gamepad where the battery support is terrible and I've got to flick through and see all the actors and all the biography and stuff that they're trying to show you with the gamepad, just let me turn that off. Just let me use my Wii remote. Let me go find what I want and press the A button because, that was one of the big things about the Wii. Everybody, refers to the fact that, it had motion control, but not only did it have motion control, it was as simple as using your TV remote. It felt like you were using a television remote to control the entire OS. I can't believe that they went away from that. I felt like for all of their services, and there aren't many, basically Amazon, Netflix, and I think they added like some music streaming service last week, waste of time, like Rhapsody or something. You would think for every service they'd let you still use your Wii remote, considering how many games still support the Wii remote, but they don't. You have to use the gamepad for everything. And I've got the extra battery life, so the battery life isn't, a big nomenclature. It's just that it's slow. It's slow and it's clunky. And then on the Wii, it was fast and responsive. So I kind of wish that I still had that old performance.
I agree, and being able to turn off the tablet when watching Netflix would be nice too. You don't need to see your movie or your TV show on two screens at the same time. That's really annoying.
Exactly.
All right, so we are back up to Kyle. What else you got going on for news?
So my other piece of news is that Neil Druckmann, creative director on Uncharted 4, has said the ending will be divisive, and that focus testers have had many discussions and or possibly arguments about how the way the game has ended.
Ooh.
And he says, quote, "Indifference would be the worst thing. I would rather have people hate it than be indifferent to it." And let me say, I am thrilled with that. I don't know if I'm going to like the ending yet. I have no idea what the ending is, obviously. But I'm very, very happy when creative people sit down and say, here's the story we're telling, here's what the ending is. I'm someone who played Mass Effect 1 and Mass Effect 2, and then Mass Effect 3 came out, and I got sucked into the multiplayer, so I never finished the story. But then everyone got really angry about it. I still don't know what the end of... I still have no idea what the original ending of Mass Effect 3 was, nor do I know how they quote-unquote changed it. But I really hope, no matter what... Now, if they kill off Elena, I'm going to be pissed. But outside of that, I think that, I'm just really happy when people come out and say, here's what we're going to do, here's what we think the right thing to do is, and this is the proper way we think to wrap up the story is. So I hope I'm mad because that means I cared. Or if I'm happy, great. But if the game ended and I was like, well, that's nice, I think I'd probably be more disappointed. So I'm excited. I'm glad that they are doing what they think is right, even though clearly some people have not been thrilled about it.
I'm with you. I mean, clearly they've kind of stated, and plus the subtitle of Uncharted 4 is A Thief's End. They kind of just said, hey, this is the end of Nathan Drake and his adventures. So it's going to be very much like I said, I can't see it being anything but divisive, where some people are going to say, okay, well, that makes sense, and some people will be like, that's crazy. But I think going into the mindset knowing that, hey, this is the last one, supposedly at least, that it's going to have a definitive ending, and good or bad, it's brought to an end. And regardless of what people's personal opinions may be, as long as it's the director's choice, the creator's choice to say, this is how I envision this coming to an end, you have to respect that. It's his craft, it's his art, or her art, whatever the case is, and say, okay, this is what the story they're trying to tell is. Whether or not we like it doesn't really matter, per se, because that's their vision to say where it was going in the long run. So I'm with you there.
I mean, The Last of Us ending was, divisive. People argued over it. I didn't have a problem with it. I think it was good for the story. I don't think Uncharted 4 will be the end of Uncharted. I think it might be the end of Nathan Drake, but I think we'll either pick up with his brother, or he'll have a son, or some other colleague. There's no way Sony just gives up on the intellectual property. I mean, that's a tentpole for their entire gaming platform. So I think we'll have many Uncharteds in the future. But, I mean, I don't really mind it if it's divisive. I think that's great. Controversy is great. I mean, that's why we podcast. That gives us stuff to talk about. I mean, that's why we as gamers like to hear each other's thoughts, because, we all have different opinions on things. So I will say this. I've only played the first two. I've still got the third one on tap. I think that might be my next game that I get into as soon as I finish Twilight Princess. At this moment, I'm not planning on picking up Uncharted 4 until maybe the fall. So I'm kind of scared of it all being spoiled for me, to be honest with you, because I know everybody's... Yeah. I mean, this is the big game until, maybe September, October of next year. I mean, this is the one. So I know everybody's going to be talking about it. And rightfully so, I guess. I mean, it's a really good franchise. The game is really good. Having played it after I played The Last of Us, you can really kind of see where The Last of Us came from. If you're in my boat and you played The Last of Us first and then you go back, there is a natural progression there. I don't like it as much as The Last of Us. I will tell you this: I'm way more excited to see what happens to The Last of Us before I see, the ending of Nathan Drake's tale. But I'll play them both regardless. I kind of hope that it's really controversial and not just he dies and people get upset. I kind of hope it's maybe more than that. because I think that might be the best thing for the series. Really put something into it. I think a lot of people, last year's E3, I haven't even played Mass Effect games, so this is me coming, from somebody who hadn't even played Mass Effect 1. But they showed people going, hey, we're building Mass Effect, and they showed like a model, and people were like, oh my god, Mass Effect! I think if you really did something really controversial with Uncharted, I think you might see that type of reaction when Uncharted ultimately makes its reappearance in 2020 or something. I think we get Uncharted 4, and then I think Uncharted kind of goes away for a few years, and then I think at some point it comes back, and then people get crazy excited because the ending to Uncharted 4 was very controversial, very divisive. Not even controversial, but just splitting. You got people on both sides arguing about it, and all that does is make the next one sell better.
All right, Donnie, what other news do you have for us?
Well, the big news that I have this week is Emily Rogers has returned to Twitter. For those of you that don't know who Emily Rogers is, she is a long-standing Nintendo leaker, and she hit Twitter with a bang this week when she said, rumor number 1, Zelda is coming to both Wii U and NX. Confirmed it with a ton of people. Now, I think most people that were in the know for video games believe that to be true. Rumor number 2, multiple sources that you can choose between a male and a female as your playable character. Rumor number 3, there's voice acting in Zelda Wii U or Zelda NX or whatever you want to call it now for all characters except for Link. Now, in cultivating our lost departed friend Nathan, I have thoughts on this. First and foremost, the male-female thing. So, I don't mind if Link is a girl. In most cases, when I'm given the option to choose, I choose a female character because I'd rather play from a female perspective or what I think of as a female perspective than a male's because I am a male. And to me, it's more intriguing. That said, I feel like this might be giving into pressure, which I'm not a fan of. A couple years ago, when the Gamergate was high and sexism in gaming was a really big deal, a lot of people, at least on Twitter, and we have our little echo chamber, so I understand that for the majority of people in the world that they really don't care at all. But for the people that do care, there was a majority of the people that do care saying that Link should be a girl, or at least you should have the option to play as both. And while I'm not against playing for both, I felt it was unfair because you don't have a whole lot of people going, Nathan Drake should be a girl. Ratchet should be a girl. You don't have a whole lot of people going, the Gears of War people should be a girl. Phoenix should be a girl. I kind of felt like Zelda was kind of picked on. If the folks at Nintendo wanted to make a Zelda story that was about a girl, I kind of wish that they made it where Link was a girl and not give you the option to choose.
Yes.
I'm a little concerned because Link has mannerisms. No, he doesn't have a voice, but he has expressions, and those expressions are somewhat male, to the visual. Mm-hmm. When I think of Wind Waker, the expression that he makes when his sister is kidnapped, the expression he makes when he gets hit, they remind me of a little boy. They don't remind me of a little girl, and I don't think it's as simple to say, if he had a ponytail, it would look like a girl. I don't think it's that simple. So I'm a little concerned by hearing this news. I'm scared that if it's not voiced, then, if Link's character is not voiced, then they just kind of put in a girl and the expressions are the same. And when I mean the same, I kind of feel like maybe it makes Link more generic than he has been in the past.
Yeah.
I also feel like maybe the love interest between Zelda, like Skyward Sword, or Ililia, like Twilight Princess, maybe that goes away. I mean, if we're gonna go down this path, I wouldn't be opposed if Link was a girl and she still had a love interest with Zelda. That wouldn't bother me at all either. I just kind of wish that, knowing how Nintendo deals with these issues, I kind of feel like if they give you the option to play as a boy or a girl, I feel like the rest of the story would be very generic for a boy or a girl. Which is why I get back to it. If they were going to make Link a boy, make him a boy and stand by it. If they're going to make Link a girl, make Link a girl and stand by it. The ability of giving you the option to choose both, I feel it complicates things, and that somewhat concerns me. The voice acting thing has been a debate for a very long time, and we've seen games a la The Last of Us Uncharted where voice acting takes a game to a whole new level. I'm playing Twilight Princess right now where there's no voice acting, and I'm reading through text, and I will admit that most of the time I'm simply sitting there clicking A to get through it. I'm not even reading. I'm just like click, 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 click. I think voice acting could provide a lot to a Zelda universe, and I'm somewhat excited about that. That said, I'm terrified that Link may get a voice, and it's not because I think it's bad or good or anything like that. It's just I've grown up with Link. I'm a Zelda fan. I mean, this is not news to anybody that listens to our podcast. I'm a huge Zelda fan, and in my mind, I see Link a certain way. And just like somebody that read a book and then watched the movie and had it ruined, I feel like if we go down this path and Link gets a voice that I don't like, I feel like a game that I love might be in jeopardy. And it scares the hell out of me because I've seen it happen so many times before in other mediums. I'm really hoping that Link gets a voice that everybody loves because it's eventually going to happen. I mean, this is how this starts. First, everybody gets voices, and then Link gets a voice. Emily Rogers has all the reason in the world to be believed. I mean, she broke the Paper Mario story like 5 months before, and that's just one of the many things that she's broke. I mean, she's been proven to know what she's talking about. She doesn't come out and just say things just to say them. If there's really one amazing thing to say in this story, it's that Emily Rogers is back on Twitter because she left for a while. So if you're a big Nintendo fan, follow Emily Rogers on Twitter. She is at ArcadeGirl64. But I did want to ask everybody, how do you feel about Link possibly being a girl or possibly being a boy or voice acting? I mean, these are kind of big claims.
All right, I'll go first. The voice acting, I'm all for. I'm completely fine with that. But my take is that Link can never have a voice. You can voice act every other person in the series. Let Link continue to be the silent protagonist. I think it fits at this point. And like you said, yes, a lot of games are going to voice acting, but if you look at Nintendo, they don't do that. Mario doesn't say much more than some "it's a me, Mario" and some "ha" and "hos" and jumping and whatnot. He doesn't talk, so it's not. I don't think it's needed at all for Link. The whole male-female Link thing, I don't know how they can do the same story completely from beginning to end and have it be a male or a female. I think if they're going to do this, and I think maybe this is where it actually is going to be if this is going to turn out to be true, is maybe either have it be like the Fry twins in Assassin's Creed Syndicate where you can switch characters off, because if there is going to be a female Link, it's probably going to be Linkle, let's be honest, from the Hyrule Warriors, and she has a completely different weapon set than Link. So I don't think it's going to be the same character. I think maybe be able to switch off depending on the mission, or that, Zelda has always danced around, time. Link is the hero of time, going back and forth. Maybe that these people are from two different time eras, and it's two separate parallel storylines that maybe can join in some way, with Ganon traveling back and forth through worlds and time and whatnot. So I think it might just be I don't think it's going to be a gimmick where you pick at the beginning of a game, yes, Link is a boy, yes, Link is a girl. I think it's going to be some sort of gimmick where they're both playable and it ties into the story together, because I don't see, like you had said, the whole relationships with different characters throughout. It's not going to be the same depending on whether it's a male or a female. You kind of have to have, if you're going to do it, have both. I don't mind if they do it. That doesn't bother me at all. It just, as long as it's done right. But the voice acting, just keep Link silent. Everybody else can talk. That's fine.
Kevin, just to piggyback on what you're saying before we get to Kyle, Neil Ronigan, who does the Nintendo World Report, and Emily and a bunch of other people, I think it's Kyle from Go Nintendo or Kevin, there was a lot of discussion on this, and they absolutely said that it is not Linkle and that it is an avatar choice. You will be given the option to choose from the beginning of the game as to whether or not Link is a female or a male. And the fact that it's not just Emily saying this. I mean, actually, she was kind of second Neil from Nintendo World Report said, hey, I'm hearing some things about Zelda I have to confirm. She kind of came in and said, it's been confirmed for Wii U and NX. He said, yes, it has been, and there's some other things. And then she said, it's a male or a female, and he was like, well, there you go. Spoilers are out there. There's more than one person kind of corroborating the story that it's an avatar choice. You're going to be now. I love your idea, by the way, for the time travel mechanic. I was also kind of hoping that we kind of get that Last of Us impression where Link, kind of is the older person that shepherds a new hero, where Link kind of takes on this girl and trains her up. I was really hoping that was the case. I think that'd be amazing, where you kind of get this Ellie Joel type relationship. Not that it's so dark and all that, but it's Link. He's doing this. He lays down his life in honor of the Triforce, and this girl picks it up and continues on. That would be the best case scenario, in my opinion. But it really looks like Nintendo is going to let you choose whether or not Link is a boy or a girl. And again, if Link was just a girl, if it was just Link's a girl now, I'd be so on board with that. But the idea that you get to choose really makes me feel like it's going to be watered down.
Yep.
And that's my biggest concern.
I'm with you there.
All right. So I have thoughts. Number one, backtracking a little bit, I was really bummed I was not on the episode where you guys talked about the little shindig Microsoft hosted at GDC, because I had thoughts there too. But we won't rehash that, because I had thoughts there too. But so, Legend of Zelda: A Link to the Past is one of my favorite games of all time. With that being said, I think this sounds totally great, because I think there is evidence in games, most notably Mass Effect, where you can choose a dude, you can choose a woman, and the game's great either way. So either you don't have the confidence in Nintendo to develop a product to that quality, or there's something else going on. Because I think that there are examples of that being done and it being done great. And I think that I can understand the concern of people who have grown up with a character and they're like, well, this is what that character is to me. But for someone, this is going to be the first game that they play in the series, period. And I think that maybe somebody at Nintendo was like, hey, let's give this a shot. This seems like a good idea. It's very possible that they just were internally were like, based off of research or whatever, we feel like this is a good direction for us to go. And I'm totally fine with that. If Nathan Drake could be a woman, that's fine by me. I don't really care. Like, those sorts of things to me, anything you can do to help games connect to a broader audience, I think if you do it for the right reasons, because you feel it's right, or you feel you can tell a good story, or you feel that it makes sense creatively or artistically to do it, I'm fine with it. I think that, too often I think we get caught up in nostalgia and the way things were, and just because something was good doesn't mean it's the best way to continue doing it. And I think, maybe this is, I don't know. Like, I don't know how the game will be. I don't know what the end result will be. But depending on their motivations for doing it, I think it's great. I think it's totally fine for them to do that. I know this is going to be really hard for a lot of Zelda fans. I don't care if Zelda gets voice acted. That doesn't bother me at all. That would not bother me one bit. And I know that maybe I haven't played as many games as other people, and I'm not as invested in the series. But maybe I would be if they made these changes.
Kyle, I'm so glad you brought that up. When this story first kind of broke, per se, I immediately went to my daughter and I said, hey, guess what? They're saying the next Zelda game, Link will be playable as a girl. My daughter lost her mind. She was so excited. She's been saying for a long time she wished she could play as more girl characters in games. I get where you're coming from. However, I feel like while you're taking the approach that I'm down for anything is cool, I kind of feel like maybe if it was in practice, maybe it wouldn't be. If I could just make an example, if Nathan Drake was a girl, then I would think that, per se, you probably wouldn't have the love interest that you do with Elena and Chloe, and that they would be two dudes and they would be different, and it would change the arc of the story. At least for me, having only played Uncharted 1 and 2, the only thing that even makes me want to play Uncharted 3 is to see how Drake interacts with Elena going forward. That's it. I really don't care about Sullivan or Chloe or anybody else. I mean, that's basically it for me. I'm only interested in that relationship. And that relationship could easily be the other side. It could be the other way. It could be I'm playing as Chloe and there's Nathan Drake. But if it was, I can't tell you how much more or less I would be invested because I've only known it this one way. Now, Nathan Drake and Uncharted is a recent game series. That game series debuted, I believe, in 2006. I'm not as PlayStation invested as you are, but that's 2000 something, mid 2000 something. Zelda's been around since 1985. I've been playing Zelda the same way for a long time, and when this news came, I want to tell you that I thought the exact same thing. When I thought about broaching this topic to the podcast, I wanted everyone to know that I sat down and I seriously contemplated, maybe I'm just that old guy. Maybe I'm that get off my lawn dude that says, no, this is the way that I like Zelda to be. And I still feel that way. I'm not opposed to it changing. But to me, Link isn't an avatar. He's not a boy or a girl. He's not whatever it is you want him to be. Link has a character. Link has a personality. I've known Link to be Link for 20 years. He has mannerisms. There are certain things that you gain over that lineage that just can't be replaced just by, calling them something else. I mean, to me, that calls any video game character into question. What if Simon Phoenix was just like a pig or a monster or a tree? I mean, it's weird to just take those types of concepts. So I'm not opposed to what you're saying. I absolutely agree with you. There's going to be a lot of people that play Zelda NX. I'm not going to say Wii U because there's only about 14 million of us playing on Wii U. There's going to be a lot more people playing Zelda NX for the first time. And the idea that you can play as a boy or a girl is probably going to be fascinating. I'm upset, though, because I feel like Link isn't a choice. You play as Link the character, and if you're making Link a choice, then I feel like Link loses something as a character. He just becomes an avatar, and at that point, why not be able to just rename him something else? There have been Zelda games where you don't play as Link. You play as file named Donnie, or file named Kevin, or file named Kyle, and to me, that loses something. I mean, Nintendo's really good at placating the females. I felt like when they were getting badgered for Link being a boy a couple years ago, as I mentioned earlier, that a lot of people were losing sight the fact that Nintendo is Nintendo is a company that has Zelda, the character. They have Princess Peach, the character. They have Daisy, the character. They have Animal Crossing. They have Cookie Mama. They have a lot of games that placate to female. They have Samus. It's Samus Aran, the most badass bounty hunter in the world. Yep. They didn't need to do this. Now, I'm not saying right now I don't want to be perceived as a person that feels like it's bad. It could be amazing. Like I said, I played Skyrim as a girl. I play most games as a female character because I agree with everybody. There's not enough of them. This isn't a sexist rant. This is the character that they perceived, and now you're changing it. I feel like they're changing it just for public demand. And I kind of want to look at, well, if that public demand was in another game, would it still be felt that same way? So for me, I kind of feel like I'm on the ropes here, where the public demand for another amazing game, isn't the same. Like, why aren't there people out there going, Lara Croft should be a dude?
Nathan Drake.
So, I don't know.
No, I mean, I think, let me be clear. I'm not saying that it should just simply be a palette swap, or that you should just be able to play as a girl just cause. I think that if from a design standpoint for the game, they're like, it makes sense for us to have Link be female because of XYZ, and it makes sense within the context of everything they're doing, then I think it's great. You're right. I don't think that there are certain games where it doesn't matter. Like, right? Like, your character's your character. They're going to develop and change. However, nothing really matters because everything happens to them. They don't necessarily do things, going the other direction. But if from a design standpoint, they think that there are good ideas and good reasons, and they have an investment in it, and I think this is true for every game, then I think, yes, I think that absolutely, I think it could be a good idea for them to do. And you're right, people aren't talking about, like, oh, Lara Croft should be a guy, because you already have Nathan Drake, who's, I mean, realistically, when you look at their recent games, they're definitely learning and playing a lot from one another. So I think that oftentimes when you think of a female character that exists, there often is a male counterpart that gives you a similar experience. That isn't always true the other way around, though.
Yeah, I mean, why haven't we played Call of Duty through a female perspective yet?
Well, I know you can in multiplayer,
That's it.
but
But
you're
people
right.
aren't
No, I
people
know.
aren't losing their minds over that. But for some odd reason, Zelda seems to be the hill that they're ready to lay down on.
Yeah, I think it's definitely different when it's a new IP versus one that's been out for years. Regardless of whatever game it is, you wouldn't try in campaign to have Samus be a guy. You wouldn't have Mario be a girl. It's different. But if you have a new game, if you have a game that the story doesn't matter, like for instance, every Final Fantasy, there's no continuity there. You can pick a male or female character to start with. Skyrim doesn't matter because the previous stories don't tie into the new ones. That's different than taking a tried and true formula that's existed to then all of a sudden turn it and say, oh wait, hey, you can pick a guy or a girl because it doesn't really matter these relationships with other characters. Yeah, it does. It's been mattering for the last 20 years, so it seems a little bit weird to me there. But for new games, no problem. Splatoon, you pick a guy or a girl when you start. No problem. They're not embedded characters yet at this point. But when you have something that's been out for this long, changing it would be really weird. Make Sonic a girl. Like, no, it just doesn't make sense. They're already existing. You can't change it once it's out there.
Exactly. I always play Splatoon as the girl character. Now, one thing that I'm really upset about, I can't say really upset. I mean, we're yet to see what's going on. But one thing that I'd much rather prefer, why can't I play as Zelda? Why can't we just keep Link the character?
Yes.
Let me choose to play as Zelda or Link, as opposed to Link the boy or girl and Zelda the girl.
Yes.
I mean, why can't I reverse those roles? That seems to be more of an appropriate, take on my part. Why can't I play as Zelda rescuing the Prince Link, or Link rescuing the Princess Zelda, or vice versa? I mean, why is it Link? Why does Link have to be a boy or a girl, and that doesn't apply to any other character so far? I mean, that seems to be that's my holdup. That's the debate that I'm having. It's not whether boys or girls or sexism. It has nothing to do with that. It's that you're taking a character that's been a character for over 30 years, and you're now saying it has to change when no other character does. And that seems somewhat unfair, at least somebody to me who's supported and grown with this character throughout my life.
Agreed. All right, and with that, hey, we got some messages, guys.
Message for you, sir.
All right, so Eric wrote in this past week and asked us what our worst console fail we've ever experienced. So now he didn't really clarify what he meant by fail, whether it was a console that launched and didn't do well or an actual failure of a console. So I will let you take that as what you will. Kyle, why don't you go first?
Oh man, I don't know if I have a good answer for this, to be honest. I mean, I owned 3 Xbox 360s, but I feel like so did everyone. Because it was the Xbox 360. But I was pretty fortunate in that any console I ever purchased, I tended to pick the quote-unquote right side or the right horse in the race. I never really have purchased something that didn't pan out that I can think of. Yeah, I don't have a really good answer for this.
All right, you're one of the lucky ones then. Donnie, how about you?
Oh, can I choose PC as like an easy scapegoat? I can't tell you how many PC games I booted up and they just didn't display because my video card wasn't right, or the video card was right but the internal settings weren't correct, and I had to go through all that. But I mean, console fails, I've got a couple. I once got a 360 from GameStop refurbished back in maybe 2010 or 11, where I think it was set on audio-visual component cables, red, blue, green, and I was trying to use HDMI and it just didn't work. And I searched the internet and tried to reboot it and hold down buttons and do everything, and it just wasn't working. And it took me 2 days to finally realize that the HDMI port itself was out. So somebody had brought a 360 with the HDMI port out, but the components worked, so they were able to trade it in, and I bought it, but I didn't have components on my TV. I just had HDMI, and I had to take it back. One of the fails that my current PS4 has although it's really not on the PS4's fault, so that's a bad way of framing it. It's my TV's fault. Is that every time I try to switch to DVD or Blu-ray, my TV like loses its visual settings, and I have to go to the next input and then come back for it to pick it back up.
Oh.
For whatever reason, every time I hit the DVD or Blu-ray app, like it just goes blank. The entire screen goes blank, and it's been this way since I bought the console. And for reference, I bought the console day one. I bought a 2-year warranty. The day before the warranty expired, I traded in for a new one, and it's still the same exact way.
Oh.
So it is got to be the television in the deal, but it is just annoying as all get out. I can't tell you how many times I've tried to watch the DVD, and I'm like, damn it! Like, it's gotten to the point where I'm like, I don't even want to try. I just watch it. I watch DVDs on other TVs in the house because it's just annoying. Outside of that, I've never really had a console just break on me. I did have a Red Ring 360, however, it was under warranty, so I got another one like really quick, so it didn't really bother me at all. I will say I've never had any Nintendo problems. All Nintendo hardware that I've ever had has always worked great. I never had a problem with my Wii, my GameCube, my N64, my 3DS, my Wii U, nothing. Trying to think here. I'm just going through the stuff. GameCube worked great when I had it. Sega. I mean, I will tell you, on my PS1, I had a lot of discs that didn't work. I will say that. I remember that as a kid, just going to the store and buying a used PS1 game, and they had those black discs, and you could see the scratches on them pretty good. And I'd put them in, and I'd spoot them up, and it just wouldn't work. And you get that little PS like CD like diamond thing. So
Oh man.
I remember having to take a lot of games back to GameStop when I was a kid and be like, this game doesn't work. I need a new one. But outside of those, that's it. I mean, that's it.
All right. Well, myself as well, I've been pretty fortunate. All my Nintendo consoles throughout history, so we'll go all the way back to the original NES. They all worked until the day I just either traded them in or sold them to get the new model. I never had one fail on me. Probably the only worst thing I had ever happen with Nintendo console was some of the Game Boys, the SP, I think, the Game Boy Advance SP, which was like rechargeable. After a while, the battery just didn't hold the charge for that long anymore, so you kind of had to be plugged into the wall almost. Those days we weren't like really going to take apart a console or anything like that to replace parts, so that was probably the worst thing. The only console I ever had cross-platform fail was PS3, but at that point, I mean, it was maybe 7 years old at that point, and it was just the disc tray stopped working. So I had a friend who had one that he had issues with it, but it wasn't that it wouldn't stay powered, and he gave it to me. So I basically Frankenstein the two PS3s together to make one functioning one that actually still works to this day and is in my basement. So
That's impressive.
Yeah, that's the only console fail I've ever had where it's 100% just shut down was a PS3. But even at that, it was I don't know 7 or 8 years into it. So I've been fortunate there. So that's been good with me. So I think that'll bring it to the end of the mailbag this evening. So let's see. Does anybody have anything to plug? Donnie.
Just the Mario Golf PSVG Tour, guys. Go in there if you've got the game. The code is posted in the forum. We did a news article on the site. Go get into the forum, get into the tournament, post your low score. I believe this tournament I posted a $5 gift card to GameStop. So you get a $5 gift card off your next purchase at GameStop. Go beat me at Mario Golf and you'll get one. Other than that, I'm pretty good.
All right, Kyle, you got anything you want to plug?
So since we're potentially looking at moving here, unfortunately most of my board games have been packed away. So this idea of writing all these awesome board game reviews is going to have to be put on hold for a little bit. I have a few that I've left out, so I can still do reviews on those. So be looking for some reviews on some board games, a review for Enter the Gungeon, Assault Android Cactus, Ratchet and Clank, Stories of Path to Destinies, and Alienation. Hopefully all of those reviews I'll have done by the end of the month.
Bang, there you go. And I know a lot of people were talking about your original board game article there. A lot of people love that, so I myself am looking very forward to seeing you talk a little bit more about board games, being a fan myself that kind of, I have some of the more advanced board games. and kind of looking for other ideas and where to go from here, basically. So looking forward to see what you throw out there. So it'd be exciting. Other than that, we want to make sure everybody gives us a like there on Facebook at facebook.com/playsomevideogames. You can always send us questions, video game related or heck, otherwise, whatever you want to ask us. You can send those questions into playsomevideogames@gmail.com. You can follow us on Twitter at _PSVG. And like us on, give us a rating on iTunes, that is. We've had, I think, like 14 reviews so far. We need the support. We need more, reviews up there. So if you don't mind taking a couple minutes and giving us a quick review on iTunes, we would greatly appreciate it. We don't really ask you guys for anything as far as financials or anything. We kind of just want you to help us spread the word. So leave us reviews on iTunes and tell a friend. I mean, heck, tell 2 friends a week, and that would, do great things for our show, and we do it for you. So, and then the last thing, we have some exciting news, guys. We want to talk about to all of our fans out there. So, a little bit of a drum roll here. We are giving away a copy of Quantum Break. That is huge. So, Coach Mo actually is kind enough to donate a copy of Quantum Break on Xbox One. A physical copy of the game, so we're not just giving away the free PC code if you pre-order Quantum Break. We're giving away a legit copy. If you'd like to enter for a chance to win, this is what you have to do. So grab a little pen and paper. I'll give you guys a second to go ahead and do that. Insert some Jeopardy music there. No, not that pen. That pen doesn't work. Remember? Why do you even still have that? Okay. All right. Now, what you need to do, write this down, everybody. You need to go to playsomevideogames.com. You need to click on the little forum button. If you've registered for the forum, awesome, congratulations, you're a step ahead of everybody else. But for all of you listeners who have not registered for the forum yet, you need to register on the forum. You need to find the thread on there that Donnie posted earlier about win Coach Mo's Quantum Break. And what we'd like you to do is post in that thread with your favorite Play Some Video Games moments so far out of all of our shows. We have a huge back library of, 8 episodes. Let us know what your favorite moment has been on the show. And what we'll do, let's say we'll probably give you till the end of April. Maybe we'll go into the first week of May, depending on how many people enter. And we're going to pick somebody and send them a free copy of Quantum Break on the Xbox One. So that is a great opportunity. Tell your friends to come in and sign up on the forum. Spread the word. Greater chance of you winning a copy or a friend of yours winning a free copy of Quantum Break. So we're excited to bring it to you. It's going to be the first of many future giveaways we're going to be working on there besides Donnie's golf tournament he's got going on with Mario Golf. So hop on there. So once again, playsomevideogames.com. Click on the forum. Sign up for the forum if you didn't already. Comment on the thread with your favorite Play Some Video Games moment from the show so far, and we will pick a winner and get that in the mail to you. So direct from Coach Mo.
Just to be clear, the Win Coach Mo's Quantum Break thread is under the podcast forum, podcast chat. Talk to us.
Perfect. And once you're registered for the forum, you can interact with the show. You can leave us questions on there. You can engage us with different topics. If there's something you want us to bring up on the show as our topic of the week, we're open to ideas, of course. And if you're just looking to interact with us, because we're looking to interact with you guys, the forum's a great opportunity to do so. So get your friends to sign up and, talk with us and win a free game at the same time. What's wrong with that?
Quick question, Kevin. Can PSVG staff members enter in for this?
No, Nathan, you can't win Quantum Break.
Wait, Nathan?
I was waiting for you to throw it to me the whole night, Kevin. Come on.
Oh my God, you've been here the whole time?
The whole time? What's going on?
Wow.
I've been so quiet. I've just been waiting for you to give me an opportunity. But, I've just been waiting.
Our Xbox ratings are really low, Nathan.
Well, that's why you need to rate us on iTunes, to get our Xbox ratings up higher.
Oh my God, I can't believe you've been here this whole time and I just didn't even... Wow.
I was... this is why we should do video chat. Next time, maybe?
It's time to talk about Rogue One, right?
Oh, yes.
We can't do video chat. Coach Mo doesn't wear pants when we podcast.
Well, that's his fault.
We
I'm
can do
torn.
video chat. I just don't know if anybody wants to see it.
Where do you think his webcam is pointing? Come on, guys.
Oh, I know where it's pointing.
Kyle, you tell us about the Buster story again?
I think we're good.
No,
Keep those
no.
up for the night, right?
No, we need to keep a PG rating here, folks. So, with that being said, as always, we want to thank you all for listening. Since Nathan was here this whole entire time, and I kind of forgot about him. He would like you to check out That's Entertaining, where this past week we discussed X-Men First Class, and that's right, I made a guest appearance on there. We also talked a little bit about Rogue One as well, so check that out at That's Entertaining podcast. And as always, thank you, boys and girls, for listening, telling a friend, rate us on iTunes, and never stop gaming.
Thank you for listening to Play Some Video Games, the official podcast.
I have to stand for this because it's so late and I'm so tired. So then I end up wandering. So I
Just walk away.
I just gotta put a piece of tape on the floor and be like, "Don't move from here."
I'm gonna go make a hot pocket, guys. I'll be right back.
That sounds so good right now. I would smack the Hot Pocket. Golly.
All right.
Oh.
Hot Pocket.